I bet you were taught that feminism is about equal rights, that it's about just us women having the opportunities that men have, like voting, working, all of those sorts of things. Now, some of you know differently, and I would argue correctly, but it's astounding how many think that it is actually about what I said. And I'm going to show you today an example of why that's not true. Also, let's quickly play a game at first. While you're thinking about that, also answer, what does this woman remind you of?
So my new favorite piece of microfeminism is when a random man walks up to you and tells you to smile. You look back at him and say, "You first." And then when he does, because they always do, you look right at him and say, "Good boy," and then walk away.
Okay, so put in the chat what she reminds you of. And also ask yourself this question. If that's microfeminism, if it's sort of getting a dig in, and we're going to look at other examples today, what would macrofeminism be then? Is it equal rights? Is it being able to work? Or is it the macro version of what that lovely young lady just said? I think we know the answer. Welcome back to Far From Eden. What I hope to show you, if you haven't recognized this in the first place, what I hope to show you today is that if it's not about equality, and it hasn't been from the beginning, then what is it about? Because you're probably like, well, I thought it was about lifting women up. Well, it is. It is about lifting women up. So here's men, here's women. And if the feminists say that women used to be down here, then they also say it was all about bringing them here, lifting them up, right? But if you actually study it or use your eyeballs and look around or hear what some of these women have to say today, also juicy examples here, you will see, yes, it was about raising women up. Now, that first lady was pretty, that's what you guys are facing in the dating meat market. This is how it plays out in the rest of the world. And this is what they are calling microfeminisms. I would say trying to be covert about it, right? Would it also be referred to as covert feminism? Because it's micro. You're not supposed to actually know what's happening, or at least not be able to point to it and say, hey, what you're doing isn't right. So listen to what this lady does. And it really shows what men say is going on in schools, both elementary, but all the way up through high school and into college, which this lady teaches.
I keep seeing all these videos from women talking about their favorite microfeminisms that they perpetuate in their daily lives, and I love this trend so much. Not just because it reassures me that however messed up my algorithm can be, I'm on the right side of TikTok, but because I enjoy seeing women lift up women, even in the smallest and sometimes pettiest of ways. And I wanted to play along. Now, this first one isn't one that I get to engage in anymore because I left working for the federal government to teach a couple of years ago.
So she used to do it when she worked for the US government. If you want to know how pervasive all of this is, well, there you go. Now, I know, and a lot of you know, but there are people who come to this channel and don't really get it. They don't understand what's really going on.
But when I did work for Uncle Sam, part of my job had me dealing with minors, and I had to verify parental relationships, confirm parental identity, and get parental consent. And in cases where the parents were both a man and a woman, I always spoke directly to mom. I also documented her paperwork first on forms and got her signature first. When I'm in a position to be introducing people who are part of a couple, I always introduce the woman first, talk about her job, and then introduce the man as her husband or boyfriend or whatever. Oh, have you met Dr. Jane? And this is her husband, John. That one always earns a smile from the women and kind of a baffled look from the men.
She's projecting. Most men are not going to be threatened by that, especially if they're married to a doctor who's a lady. A man who is doing that already doesn't have a problem with the way things have progressed. But, what do I know?
And these last couple of things I do in the classroom as a college professor. If a male and female student in my class either raise their hands at the same time or begin speaking at the same time in the course of a discussion, and this happens a lot, I will kind of pause them and say, oh, I can only hear one of you at a time, and I'll ask the female student to go first.
That's discrimination, ma'am. And I don't know if my child was going to that college, which I would never send my kid to a college. But anyways, if they were, you need to be fired. That's not okay to do it, because if you did it the other way around, nobody would be okay with that. But it's all right, because it's micro-feminism.
This also happens quite a bit. If a male student in one of my classes either full on repeats an idea that a female student has already put forth or tries to take credit for her idea in paired or group work, I always call it out.
That's not a male thing to do that. I've been in plenty of group working, school scenarios where another human being has taken credit for my work or what have you. That's not a male thing to do. But it is interesting how you could have such a warped perspective that you would only see it when a man does it and only call it out when a man does it. But once again, what do I know?
That's a really good point, John, and it was just as good when Jane made it 5 minutes ago. I also put a lot of effort into trying to break my female students of the habit of over-apologizing. If they add to a discussion and say, oh, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to add, I'll stop them there and say, don't apologize for contributing. Please just speak your idea. Same thing if they get nervous and maybe flub up a little bit in an oral presentation. They're like, I'm sorry, I'm just nervous.
Maybe you're not as competent. Or maybe it is that you're just nervous, but maybe you're not as competent. I have something to say, but I'm going to let her say her next thing first.
Don't apologize. Nerves are normal. Just keep going. Because part of my job as an educator is preparing these students for the real world, and that means listening to their female colleagues when they speak, giving them credit for their ideas and contributions, and ensuring that women are confident and comfortable in the workplace. Now, I want to know what your favorite microfeminism is.
I don't think you do. I don't think you want to know what mine might be, although I should have thought of some, because that would have been fun. I enjoy comedy, but yeah, she is just assigning negative human traits to men and also assigning them as some type of predatorial or putting women in their place. That's what they think is happening. They think that these men don't respect women, don't know how to share ideas, what have you, with women. But these are just humans that are shady and want to do that. But isn't it interesting? Because I don't know. I've worked with both men and women on a variety of things. And I've actually found this to be more of a female thing, to compete with other women. I have not found it that men were trying to compete with me. But, my anecdotal evidence is nowhere near as important as her anecdotal evidence, especially because hers is absolutely skewed and warped by her educational training, which is that we have been oppressed for all of human history. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to giggle about that. Okay, so BuzzFeed came out with an article about microfeminisms, and there are examples in here that I think are very telling, and I think should validate a lot of your experiences. And I hope that there are men here that have sensed that things are unfair, that they have sensed that the women in their lives, including their mothers, have continuously tried to put them in their place. And that includes telling them to, cry in public, etc., but scolding you if you do. Anyway, without further ado, quote, if men don't need to disclose their marriage status, why do I? 28 ways women reject the patriarchy and practice acts of microfeminism every day. I've lived in this world for a little while. Not once have I had to disclose my marital status for any reason or situation other than a situation where a man would be expected to do that as well. But I also think it's interesting that you would have a hissy fit over that when we all know, even if we won't admit it, that we look at a man as a status symbol. That's why we like them tall. That's why we like them with impressive jobs like a pilot, this or that or the other. Why would it matter what their job sounded like if it wasn't to impress other people? He's a pilot. He's in finance. He's a da-da-da, right? Why wouldn't you say he manages several grocery stores? Even if you make a lot of money doing that, it's not nearly as impressive, is it? No. Quote, I like pointing out men's emotions to show that everyone is emotional, not just women. It makes men realize they have feelings too and should be able to identify and express them. They have feelings. It's just that some of us are better at emotional regulation than others. And just because you're very good at emotional regulation doesn't mean you don't have them. I, for one, think that both little boys and girls should be taught how to emotionally regulate. It's just that it's harder innately for one of the genders than it is for the other. If y'all have ever watched cop cam videos, that's a good way to see who's doing what. Anyway, we recently asked members of the Buzzfeed community, what's a form of microfeminism you try and practice in your daily life? Here's what people shared. People. I think it's more women, but okay. Number 1, not moving out of the way on the sidewalk when a man is about to walk into me and clearly sees me. And he could move as well, especially if I'm on the right side of the sidewalk and he's coming at me on the left side. He really should be the one moving over. Okay, both men and women do that. And it's usually the person carrying the heaviest thing or what have you. Now, what if the right side is closer to traffic? Are you going to get mad that he's taking the risk in being closer to traffic than expecting you to do that? Look, I heard Steven Crowder respond to something like this as, so you're just being a bully. Number 2, I always list my personal information as Ms. on forms, even though I've been married for 41 years. I never use Mrs. If men don't need to disclose their marriage status, why do I? Oh, I see. It's that. Are you saying you're mad that there is a Mrs. that exists? What if I, as a woman, want the freedom to disclose my marriage status? Isn't it true that women either can or do not have to? Isn't that an additional freedom? Number 3, if a man tries to interrupt me, I don't stop talking. I raise my voice as loud as I must sometimes literally yelling from my diaphragm to project my voice like I was taught in ROTC, until he shuts up and waits his turn. Okay, once again, let's be a bully. And let's also say we don't know how to work in a business environment where people are, contributing ideas and overlapping one another, because we all do that. And if you're going to ask me who interrupts who more, I know what the answer is. And I bet you guys do too. I adjusted the camera so you could see your little friend a little better. That's Lola. By the way, if you're like, oh, what does this have to do with dating? I mean, not all women think like this. Glad you said that. Because it seeps into society. You see, it gets in there because it's passed down from generations. You heard that one woman say she'd been married for 41 years. How old does that make her? It makes her a boomer, pretty much. At the very least, old Gen X. What do you think she taught her daughters, if she had them, or even granddaughters, if she has them by now? Same, but it's not going to be packaged as extreme or anything like that. It's going to be packaged to turn you into, I don't know, Tommy Lauren. And it's where you get the, well, why doesn't he approach me? How come I have to approach him? How come I have to pay for 50-50 of the date? If you want all this, then why aren't you paying for all of it? Why aren't you doing all the approaching? I hope she uses the steps and doesn't wipe out. And yes, she has been outside in the rain. Anyway. All right. So she loudly talks over him. In the past couple of weeks, I've loudly threatened to take off my shirt in the presence of shirtless men. Okay. Oh, she goes on. Mentioned something about my time of the month in front of them. Went to the beach and talked about how luscious my leg hair is. Oh, because men do that all the time. What are you talking about? Oh my God. Ew. I never shave anything. Ew. I hope the guys say ew. Because if I was overhearing it, I would at least make a face. Yeah, we do that. But it's not enforced by men, okay? None of this is enforced by men. This is something we all choose to do to be more attractive to you. Because we want you and we want you to like us. See some of my very recent videos about the male gaze. And simply worn the most aggressively feminist clothes I can find. I bet she has the glasses. Oh my, this is comedy. This is just comedy. They don't even realize it's funny. But I bet they get mad if they knew how funny I find it. Probably madder at me than you. But that's okay. I don't mind. Okay, number 5, not letting my gut reaction always be to apologize. So it's your gut reaction, is it? It's not because of society? Could it be, just hear me out, could it be that we are innately more agreeable? I don't know. I can spin that into a positive for what we are. The last lady wanted to talk about her time of the month. So that means that you can have offspring, actually have them. And being agreeable would be a really good characteristic to have if you're going to be the one that has the baby and deals with the raw, breasticles, and I should say chesticles. Whoops. Anyway, these, and then also is the one that should be dealing with the screaming and stuff. And if you're a woman and you happen to be still watching, which I can't imagine that you are, and you're also a feminist, But just in case you are, and you say, well, that's not fair. How come he doesn't get up in the morning? Because he has to pay the mortgage. He has to keep the lights on. He has to do all that. Why? Because he's better suited to work. He's physically made to do so. We are physically made to bear children. Anyways, just in case, the women that are here, not you, Michelle, not you, Dawn, not you, Samantha, but if you're here and you needed just an intro bio lesson, let the liberal arts lady teach you about it. Anyway, I feel like women have a habit of immediately saying sorry, even when it's not our fault, just to de-escalate any situation or seem smaller. Isn't that, I'm sorry, but by our own logic, isn't that a good thing? Sometimes you can be so competitive and want to win so badly that you lose sight of what's going on or what reality is. I actively try to step back, review the situation, and see if there's a more productive way to respond to whatever is happening that doesn't involve putting myself down for someone else's benefit or to make things easier. You know what? Men also do that because they don't, punch a guy in the face or anything like that. They have to not de-escalate it to violence, because when two men are interacting, there is the case that it could escalate to violence. So the problem is, if you don't, sorry, I'm getting loud. The problem is, if you don't recognize what the male experience is, you're going to have these thoughts. Number 6. There are several things I do, exclamation point. Anytime there are men and women around, I address the woman first and consistently acknowledge them throughout the conversation. I think they talked to one of the chicks we watched earlier in this video. Throughout the conversation, I don't let the man take the lead over them. I also do this in a business setting. Like the other day at the farmer's market. Sorry, a business setting. The other day at the farmer's market, a mother and her adult children, a young woman and a man, were selling hummus and baklava. The man kept trying to butt in and sell to me, but I stayed focused on the women, talked to them, and gave them a sale. I have a baby girl, and I have a baby girl, and she got a crown recently when we went to see Cinderella, and she loves it. Every time she wears it, she loves to look in the mirror, and I tell her, look at you. You look like such a strong leader, a fair and just princess, studying to be a queen. You know who a queen has? A king. Historically speaking, that's how one would become the queen, you see. She would be married to the king. If the king were to pass, historically speaking, in many of the situations throughout history, that does not then make her a queen, as in a ruler. And I don't know, if you watch on my other channel on Sunday evenings, you have learned already that a princess still wants her prince. Sorry, as hard as we try, we're not going to take your power. Studying to be a queen. Good Lord. Number 7, not sure it's micro, but I teach my children that I don't read these beforehand because I like to experience them with you. This one makes me very, 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 very angry. And I only read 3 words ahead. Tell me what you guys think in the comments when I read this to you. Not sure it's micro, but I teach my children that God has no gender. Having been raised in a very religious home, I do my best not to refer to God with he/him pronouns, but either they, them, or she, her. I'm sorry, ma'am. God identifies as a he, him. Those are his preferred pronouns. And we would greatly appreciate it if you would have the compassion to look at me finding my cross instinctually, that you would have the compassion to recognize him as he sees himself. This is the root of the patriarchy. Okay? It's the root of the patriarchy. When she is putting you down, putting you in your place, emasculating you, making fun of you when you ask her out on a date, calling you a creep, etc., etc. When she's tearing down that patriarchy or talking over you, all the things we've read so far, it represents who's at the head of the patriarchy. And who's at the head of the patriarchy, which means led by the father, it's God. She was raised in a very religious household. Ma'am, no, you weren't. If you had been, you'd know better. You were raised in a household that didn't know how to raise up children right and defend against the world. Disgusting. Okay, it keeps going with the pronouns. All right. I also have 2 daughters, and I never buy them pink anything unless they explicitly ask for it. Only one of them likes pink. When I was growing up, I didn't like pink either. I like purple. I bet you if she had a son, she'd urge him towards pink. This morning, I got a text from a man. If you're watching, hi, you'll know who you are, but I don't think you are because you have 3 kids and you're super busy. Anyway, he's divorced in the last few years, and I have been in contact with him because I've been worried about him, because we all know the stats on what men do to themselves sometimes when life just gets too bleak and there are no options that you can readily see. He sent me a couple pictures of his boys. He's got 2 boys, and they're in their football uniforms, looking really good. And he's used football to teach them, skills and characteristics that he would like them to have as young men. Very nice photos, no goofy faces, what have you. And they have haircuts, which I made sure that he got them haircuts. Anyway, that's beside the point. But they had, I don't even know what it's called. You guys tell me. In soccer, they look like shin guards. So whatever those socks are, or what have you, they were bright pink. And I said, looking good. However, why are those things pink? Oh, that's just for October, for breast cancer awareness. And I said, that's nice. Like, what do they wear for prostate awareness? Men's Mental Health Month? Anything? He knows me. He knows I'm going to point all that stuff out. But a big reason I point that out to him is because of the way his ex-wife is. Good Lord, she's just put on the armor of feminism. And it's not a good look. So anyway, it's part of the reason the divorce happened. But hot pink, is it their choice? No, it's for breast cancer awareness. So what is that shaping the boys to think of? If there's just that one thing that we have to observe, and it's for women because we're caring. And I know that men would gladly do that, and they do, because that's who men are. However, they don't notice, I don't think, I've not been told by you guys, that there would be another thing that men might need awareness for. That wires their brain in a certain way. I'm always going to try to share personal details with you guys as much as I can without doxing myself or others, because I think it matters. You need to know that I do this in real life, and that's the way it has to happen if we're going to make any kind of change. All right. All right, was that the last one? I think sometimes I feel like I just stroke out after reading one of these because of what it does. All right, let me just see. Oh yeah. The pink and the God and all of that. Yeah, that I had like a minor aneurysm there. Number 8, not helping to cook or clean at family gatherings. My male family members were never expected to. After dinner, they would stay in their seats as the woman cleaned around them. Huge double standard. I'm opting out. Who paid for the food? Who pays for where you are? I don't know for sure, but I'm just asking a question. And yeah, never mind. Number 9, whenever there are group projects, I make sure everyone does their fair share of the work. I don't let the boys slack off, take credit for my work, or just be lazy. If I do all the work and they get to share my group grade, I'll complain. They're called group projects for a reason. That's what I said earlier about the group projects. Sorry, that's not a thing. Not a thing where it's like just the men that want to take the credit is not a thing. If that's the case, okay, let's look at this argumentatively. If that's the case, and this whole, let's even just say America is a group project, what part did we play building, I don't know, the railroads, the bridges, the skyscrapers, Hoover Dam, oil rigs, building them, maintaining them, working on them? And do we give credit where credit's due? Or do we kind of just share in the credit of the whole group project? I'll wait for the feminists to answer that question. Number 10, whenever I play dolls with my young daughters, I allocate any domestic tasks to the males/father. Because I keep Ken tied to the dream house while Barbie goes on adventures. Okay, the dream house. Yeah, you're really punishing Ken, aren't you? We don't seem to understand that being able to stay home and work on the house, which is our house too, and take care of our own children is the easy life. Barbie going on adventures, that's what a lot of women, not all, because we can't say all. That's wrong. That's what they thought going to work was and having a career was. Going out on fun adventures. That's enough. That's enough internet for me today. Have you guys seen that adorable little African man who does those reactions? Oh my gosh. So that's 10 of them. We're going to look at some of the rest of them on another video because there's a lot to, as some of these women would say, clap back at. We got to call it out. And there's no way to lift men up if we don't recognize how they've been pushed down. And I know that kind of sounds like the feminism argument, except for one of them's true and one of them's false. And I think everybody here knows which one that is. I've gotten good at playing nicely with YouTube. And I think it's kind of fun and a challenge to do that. So with that, because we've had a laugh, and I think as much as we can fight this, we can't defeat it, but we can have a laugh. And sometimes that's a great defense. Why? Because it feeds our souls. And we need to do that. it protects our peace, and we need to do that too. I hope you guys are doing both of those things. Remember that I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.